Welcome to Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets, where world-renowned author, speaker, and holistic veterinarian Dr. Judy Morgan answers your questions and offers healthy options for raising your pets in a more holistic manner. Not sure which vaccinations should be given or how often? Not sure what to use for flea, tick, and heartworm prevention? Join Dr. Judy now as she interviews the top experts and showcases the latest products that will help your pets stay naturally healthy.
Hello and welcome to Dr. Judy Morgan's Naturally Healthy Pets. I'm your host, Dr. Judy, and you're listening on DreamVision7Radio.com. You can hear my show every Monday and Tuesday at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern. I am so excited to have this guest back again today. Those of you who have been listening to me for the past couple of years will remember that I did an interview with David Alan Arnold. Oh, gosh, it's probably been a year ago. And he is a Hollywood helicopter cameraman, for those of you who don't know who he is. When you watch the Super Bowl and, Wives of Hollywood and Deadliest Catch, there's somebody in a helicopter with a camera that's taking all of that footage, and this is the guy behind that camera. David, welcome aboard.
Dr. Judy, thank you so much for having me back.
So our conversations are always fun, and you've just got so much going on in your life besides being a cameraman, but, as if that is not enough, because so I've read your two books. The first book was How I Went from Sweeping the Floor to Painting the Sky, and for anyone who has not read these books, you absolutely need to read them. So that book is all about how you ended up becoming the helicopter cameraman. And, the thing is, after reading that book, it's sort of like, oh my gosh, good things and cool things can happen to anybody. I mean, do you feel like you just got lucky? Were you just in the right place at the right time? Are you just incredibly hardworking and sucked up to somebody? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I definitely don't feel lucky. It's interesting. I've always had a very strong sense that throughout my life that I've been guided and helped and protected by someone I can't see. And one of my early childhood memories is of that very thing where I was a little boy. I was probably 8 years old, and I found a bag of water, which was really neat. It was this clear plastic bag of water. It had a spout for drinking, and it was just the neatest thing. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. It's like those desert water bags that they use in Lawrence of Arabia to drink water in the desert.
Oh, yeah.
And I went to take a drink out of it, and something stopped me. It was almost like a hand just came over me and just stopped me. And I had this weird, almost like a voice that said, before you drink it, pour it on the ground. Which was really weird. Like, why would I pour the water on the ground? It makes no sense. But I did. So I poured the water on the ground, and the ground started steaming.
Oh, my.
And bubbling. And looking at this, it was so weird. I'm like, why is the ground, like, boiling when I poured the water on it? And my dad walked by, and he saw me there. He looks at it, and he goes, oh, that's sulfuric acid.
Ah!
He said, we use that to clean concrete.
Oh, my gosh.
And it was just, my whole life has been that way, where I stumble into a really dangerous predicament, like I'm about to drink sulfuric acid, and something like a higher power or a guardian angel stops me and protects me from myself. And so that's really the story of my life, is not being lucky, but actually just being helped and being protected and guided and blessed.
Well, thank goodness, because I think you would have been dead like many times over with all the things that you've done. I mean, reading the first book and, going through, the helicopter's going down. Oh, I'm stuck in a tree with a bear. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, who does this stuff? And lives in California.
Well, that's me. It's and it's interesting. I went through so many of those experiences and never told anyone about it. the story that opens book one, where I'm crashing in a helicopter in Alaska, my own family doesn't know that story because
well, they do now.
I never. They do now, yeah. I never talked about anything, the adventures I went on or the crazy places I traveled in Alaska for TV shows and movies. I never told anyone. And when I started writing books, as you know, it was because there was a problem with organized crime in my community. And so I needed a way to tell people what was going on. And in the process, I started to also tell my own stories of my flying adventures and, like we just discussed, different problems that I created for myself, and what it was like to go through, those things and survive them. And so now on the other side of it, I'm glad that I finally started to tell my stories, because I love, especially for kids today, to hear, the stories of my adventures of working on Deadliest Catch and flying over the Super Bowl, and to start to think about their own life choices and what might be available to them and what they might be able to do if they push just a little bit harder.
Well, somebody has to do your job. It's a very cool job, and I think a lot of people would like to have that job. But it is, it's interesting. My son is an entrepreneur, and when he was in high school, he was really into esports, and I think at that point it was Death of the Ancient. No, he does Dota now. At that point it was World of Warcraft or something. And so he started all these online tournaments. He didn't have any funding to back it. He was putting his own money in, and these kids would play, to win $20 or $40, and so he was doing his own esports broadcasting, being the broadcaster, calling the play-by-play. And, I used to listen to him up all night, because a lot of these games are played in Korea and China overseas, so, opposite time schedule. And I used to say to him, you are never going to make anything out of this. This is ridiculous. If you want to play this game, that's fine, but, get out of your room and get some sunshine once in a while. And by the way, you're going to college and getting a degree. So, he appeased the mom, and, he didn't get out of his room very much, but he did appease me, and he went to college, which I don't know that was never an option, but he ended up majoring in entrepreneurship, and I was like, great, what are you going to do with this? Well, what do you do with that? You become an entrepreneur. And what does he do? He's an esports broadcaster and gets paid really good money and flies all over the world doing that. And, I sit here and go, holy cow, that kid's racking up, frequent flyer miles like nobody's business. He's been to countries I will never see, and that's because he had a dream, and he said, I'm just going to do this. And I think your message is really important, that kids can look at something and say, well, I'm going for it. Now, even if mom and everyone around them is saying, no, you can't do that. You'll never make that. You'll never do. I mean, and who are we as parents? Why the heck do we tell our kids you can't do that or you'll never make that? That's horrible parenting.
Well, it comes from a good place, though, Dr. Judy. I'm glad you told that story, because I think that so many parents struggle with that, because they want their kids to go to college and get a degree, not because they care about the degree, but because they want their kids to have money and to have a roof over their heads and to be fulfilled and happy. And, that's a way to get there that we know works. And, and kids, I think, don't view the world that way, and so they might reject it. And I think this is a struggle that I think a lot of parents and kids go through is what are you going to do with your life? Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I like doing, e-broadcasting. And and so I'm glad you told that story, because I think that's it's really important for people to hear stories like yours and start to think about how they can make it work, because I think parents don't always have a way to communicate that to their kids, like what they really want them to end up with and why they care so much about, for example, a college degree.
Right. So now you started out sweeping floors. So
I did.
Yeah. How do you, were you in the back of your mind going, hey, I want to be the guy with the camera on the helicopter? Did you set out to do that?
No.
Or did it, it just kind of showed up?
No, I'll tell you. And that's another story that I think is great for kids today to hear, and parents, because if they're thinking of spending $120,000 for a college degree for their kids, not knowing what the kids are going to end up doing, I think it's important to hear a story like mine where I came from a blue-collar background. And I never doubted for a second that I would be a success. And I wasn't looking past my job sweeping the floor. It's actually the opposite. I focused all of my energy on sweeping the floor. And I remember I had a quote from Martin Luther King Jr., and he said that if a man is called to sweep the floor, he should sweep the floor so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth look down and say, wow, here lives a man who does his job well. And I took it that way. I not only swept the floor, but I thought, how do I really help the people around me that I work with and work for? How do I do something that no one's ever done for them before? How do I sweep the floor so well that they've never seen it like this? And that's how I approached it. And I knew that if I worked that way, I would be a success. And I didn't know, necessarily where I would end up, but I knew it would work out for me if I took my job that way. And I've taken it that way every day for all of these years. And it is, I think, for someone like me who doesn't have a college degree, I think it's another way to, end up in a very positive place that you get to by serving other people really well. And whether you go to college or not, if you're 19, 20 years old, I think it's important to hear a story like that so that you have some sense of, if you have a college degree, what will really push you farther than otherwise. Or if you don't have a college degree, how can you end up in a happy place where you're fulfilled and the people around you are happy, and everyone that you work with likes you and wants you to do more for them and wants to pay you more money, as you learn to do more things. I think those are important stories for people to hear.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's really interesting because I'm a veterinarian, but it is a service industry. So I deal with people all day long, and I'm providing a service for them. My service is trying to keep their animals as healthy as possible, but I'm providing a service. And so because I'm in a service industry, and because I have people at the front desk and answering phones and talking to clients all the time, I'm really acutely aware when I go into other businesses how people do their jobs and how they handle things. And let me tell you, when I go to a restaurant or even the gas station, we get our gas pumped for us here in New Jersey. It's a lovely thing. But anywhere I go and I have someone who goes above and beyond and they're happy and they're kind of like you were sweeping the floor, they're just like, how can I do this job absolutely to the best of my ability and serve that other person and really make their day, make them happy? I am always so impressed when I run across those types of people. And I don't care whether you're making $5 an hour or $50 an hour or $500 an hour. When you come across as someone who is giving it 100%, it makes such a difference. And I think people that do that are much happier because they're not always, scrambling to cover up their lack of ambition or their lack of giving it everything. I mean, we all have bad days, but it does totally make a difference. So I think, if we can give our kids that, just, hey, whatever you're doing, give it your all. I don't care if you're sweeping floors or, being a neurosurgeon, just, do it to the best of your ability.
Right. Yeah, it's a basic thing. It's a simple thing, and it's a very simple work ethic and attitude. And so I'm really glad that kids are reading my book nowadays and starting to see how I got from a high school education to working on the Deadliest catch to flying over the World Series. and
it's a pretty cool
so
job.
that they have a sense of, well, and it's a